Week 16 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to buy this week. The first guy, Quantrill, of the Cleveland Guardians. So Quantrill here, it's been an up and down season, and for the Guardians in that aspect too, it's been a 500 type of year for them. On the season for Quantrill, 117 innings, 7-5 record, 120 hits, 53 earned runs, 34 walks, 75 strikeouts, 10 quality starts, a 4.08 ERA, 1.32 whip, but over the last few weeks here, it's been a struggle for Quantrill. 16 in the third, 1-0 record, 20 hits, 11 earned runs, 4 walks, 12 Ks, a 6.06 ERA, and a 1.47 whip. So Quantrill, he's had some good months this season here. And then this month, it's been a struggle from mid-July till now, though. In the last few outings for him, July 27th at Boston, 5 in the third in that one, 8 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 4 Ks. And August 1st versus Arizona, 6 innings, no decision, 6 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 4 Ks in that ball game. So right here, Quantrill, he's not on the greatest of teams, but he's not in that tough a division as well in the AL Central. It's really just the Twins and the Chicago White Sox as the decent teams in that division. But his next outing's a tough one, August 6th versus Houston. Quantrill, he has been dropped in 2% of fantasy leagues, and surprisingly, he's available in 54% of leagues. So it's either you pick him up off your waiver wire or you make a trade for him where you don't got to give up much at all. But I think Quantrill could turn things around a little bit here. And like I mentioned, we've seen good flashes from him, and his ERA isn't totally terrible at a 4.08. But for a guy for the back end of your rotation the next few weeks here, I think he's a decent guy to go out there and buy this week. The next guy is Holmes of the New York Yankees. So the Yankees, the best team in the major leagues this season here. And Holmes, he's come out of nowhere after struggling for most of his Pittsburgh Pirate career. On the season, 45 2/3, 5-2 record, 17 saves, 29 hits, 9 earned runs, 13 walks, 48 strikeouts, 3 blown saves, a 1.77 ERA, and a 0.92 whip. But over the last few weeks here for Holmes, 4 1/3, 1-1 record, a save, 2 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, 4 Ks, a blown save, a 6.23 ERA, and a 1.38 whip. So right here, Holmes, the last few outings, they just haven't been good, including a ball game versus the Kansas City Royals July 31st. 2/3 of an inning, got the loss. Hit 3 runs, a walk in that one, and the blown save. So Holmes here, he's already hit the wall a little bit with this Yankee team. And maybe in big spots, he's not going to be a guy in the playoffs that's going to help this team. But in terms of fantasy baseball, I still think he's going to get the job done. And right now, while he's been struggling the last few outings here, and his ERA's ballooned all the way up to a mid-6 in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I would go out there and get Holmes because he's on the best team in the league. He's going to get opportunities. And like I mentioned, right now it's just a hiccup here for Holmes. And he hasn't pitched now in 6 days. So maybe that rest will help him out. And he'll be a guy right now that goes out there and turns things around. And right now you still got to give up something decent, maybe a decent bat for him. But his value's definitely dropped off after he got off to an amazing start the first 3 months of the season. The next pitcher is Pablo Lopez and the Miami Marlins. So this Marlin team, the only promise they got this season here is a few good starters. Sandy Alcantara, one of the best in the National League. Pablo Lopez, he's been pretty good. And Braxton Garrett, we've seen some good stuff out of him this season here. So on the season for Lopez, 118 2/3, 7-6 record, 98 hits, 45 runs, 35 walks, 119 strikeouts, and 8 quality starts. There was trade talks that the Dodgers were interested in him and the Yankees, but those talks went nowhere, and he remained with the Marlins, obviously, here at the deadline. On the last few weeks here, though, for Lopez, it's been a struggle. 9 2/3, 1-1 record, 14 hits, 7 earned runs, 12 Ks, a quality start, a 3.41 ERA, 1.12 whip on the season, but in the last few weeks, that ERA's ballooned to a 6.52 ERA and a 1.45 whip. So right here, he struggled a little bit as Lopez. And yes, he's in a tough division with good hitting teams like the Mets, the Atlanta Braves, and Philadelphia Phillies, but I still think he could turn things around. And tomorrow he's got a good matchup at the Chicago Cubs. So right now, while he struggled the last 2 out of 3 outings, here is Lopez. I would go out there and try to get him on my roster. He could be a solid 3rd or 4th starter for your fantasy team, or even if you need a starter that bad, he might be your number 2, but either way, he's having a good season. I know he's in a tough division, but right now, he's coming back down to earth a little bit with that ERA at 3.41. The last few games here for him, July 21st versus Texas, 5 innings, got the loss, 5 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, 6 Ks. July 26th at Cincinnati, 7 innings, got the win. 2 hits, a run, 11 Ks, a quality start. And then July 31st, the Mets hit him good in that one. 2 2/3, got the loss. 12 hits, 6 runs, a K in that ball game. So right now, he's been struggling, no doubt about it. Only 2 quality starts since July 3rd here for Lopez, but he's too talented of a pitcher to be struggling this long here. And it's not like he's a youngster that hasn't pitched this deep into the season already with 120 innings under his belt. And I know the Marlins aren't good, but right now, I still think he could turn things around. And he's a guy that definitely can help fantasy owners in the playoffs or get there. The next guy is Robbie Ray of the Seattle Mariners. So it's been a mixed bag of results here for Ray on the season. There's weeks where he's been lights out like he was last year winning the Cy Young with Toronto. And then the last couple weeks here, he's been hit around his Ray on the season. 122 2/3, 8-8 record, 105 hits, 56 runs, 42 walks, 139 strikeouts, 11 quality starts, a 4.11 ERA, and a 1.20 whip. But over the last couple weeks here, he's been hit like a piñata, is Robbie Ray. 5 2/3, 0-2 record, 15 hits, 10 earned runs, 4 walks, 4 Ks, a 15 ERA, and a 3.35 whip. So right here, when his control goes, is Ray. He's batting practice, and he does give up a lot of home runs. So the last 2 outings have really done him in. But he's still a guy I got confidence in. This Mariner team's playing great baseball over the last month of the season. Robbie Ray, his strikeout rate is still great this season. And he just ran into a Houston team his last 2 outings that obviously own him. July 15th at Texas, 6 2/3, got the win. 6 hits, 3 runs, 12 Ks, a quality start. July 24th versus Houston, 3 innings, got the loss. 10 hits, 6 runs, a K in that one. And July 29th at Houston, once again, 2 2/3. Got the loss, 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 3 Ks in that ball game. So his next outing's actually today here versus the Los Angeles Angels. And I think Robbie Ray could go out there and turn things around. The Angels, one of the worst teams in the league. They really have free-fallen over the last 2-3 months of the season here after getting off to a pretty good start. But Robbie Ray's a professional. He'll go out there, he'll bounce back. And it's just a hiccup versus a great Houston Astro hitting team. So right now, if you could go get him on a little bit of a discount, this would be the time to do it, because he's definitely a guy that can help fantasy teams in the next few weeks here and even help carry a pitching staff for a little bit as well. And the 5th and final pitcher I look to buy is Jordan Montgomery of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Montgomery traded for Harrison Bader at the Major League Trade Deadline. So if you didn't hear that or check that video out, it's all on the channel, everything I covered on the deadline, and the wild day it was. So Montgomery on the season, 114 2/3, 3 3 record, 103 hits, 47 runs, 23 walks, 97 Ks, and 9 quality starts here for Jordan Montgomery. But over the last few weeks, it's been a struggle, and maybe a change of scenery is going to help him. 6 1/3, 0-1 record, 9 hits, 8 runs, 3 walks, 9 Ks in that time, 11.57 ERA, and a 1.89 whip. But on the season overall, that ERA 3.69 with a 1.10 whip. So right now, he goes from a tough American League East, where you got to verse great hitting teams like the Toronto Blue Jays, the Tampa Bay Rays. Even Boston was a decent hitting team, and even Baltimore showed some flashes this season. So now he goes from there to the NL Central, where the only competition really for him here is the Milwaukee Brewers. Yeah, the Cubs could hit here and there, but the Brewers are the only team really that I would be worried about here for Jordan Montgomery. So right now, the change of scenery I think helps. He goes to a weaker hitting division in the NL. And Montgomery's a lefty that this Cardinal team definitely needed. They got Quintana and him, 2 good acquisitions at the deadline. July 15th versus Cincinnati, 6 innings in that one. 6 hits, 3 runs, a walk, 4 Ks, a quality start. July 26th at Toronto, 2 2/3, got the loss in that one. 5 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 3 Ks. And July 31st here for him, 4 innings in that ball game. 4 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. So right here, he's been struggling as Jordan Montgomery. And the funny thing is, his first outing now is versus his former team, the New York Yankees, August 6th. So right here, it's going to be interesting to see what Montgomery does versus former team. This one is in St. Louis, not Yankee Stadium. But I just think he's a guy that could turn things around, and he's a guy we'll go out there and trade for. Going from the East to the Central is a whole different ball game and a way weaker division, and he definitely could pay good dividends for fantasy owners. So that's a few pitchers I look to buy and trade for Week 16 of the fantasy baseball season.